This is Corey Lefevre with Garden Fever with another episode for you today. I wanted to talk a little bit about the rhubarb plant. I apologize for the lighting. We just got a good rainstorm, so it's kind of dim, and my neighbor has a Cujo dog that likes to bark, and he's not out right now, so I kind of have to do this now. Don't make for easy videos when he's barking at you. So anyway, I wanted to talk about rhubarb and why I think everybody should have a nice shot of rhubarb. Whoa, apparently the soil's it's moist, as you can tell, but anyway, I think everybody should have a rhubarb plant, or at least a couple of them, because they make an excellent survival plant, because they're a pretty hardy perennial, and they're cold hardy. They've grown all the way up into Canada. It actually doesn't tolerate the heat more than the cold, so that's what makes it ideal for the people in the north. It's got a tart kind of a flavor, and the leaves are poisonous, so don't eat them. The root, or not the roots, the stems is what you eat, for those of you who don't know. Most people associate it with desserts, so it's kind of misinterpreted as a fruit, but in fact it's a vegetable. But because it's, at least it was originally classified as a vegetable, and then later I think they changed that to a fruit, or people just started calling it a fruit, and it became a fruit, kind of like tomatoes. They're technically a fruit, but everybody considers them a vegetable because they're not sweet. I mean a fruit because they're not sweet. So anyway, when planting them, of course they do better in loose, rich in compost and organic matter type soils, but they can handle some acidic soils and some rough soils too. But you'll obviously do better if you have good soil, which holds true to almost all plants. You'll find that through all YouTube videos and research that you'll do, that loose, loomy, organic, rich soil is the preferred method to grow in. There are some exceptions, obviously sandy and clay, and there are some stuff that you can grow in other soils that are just as good, but most vegetables and food plants you're going to want to grow in very loose, loomy soil, just rich in organic matter. The more organic and trace minerals and things that you have in it, the better it's going to do. So anyway, when eating these raw, I prefer the smaller stalks, or the thinner, smaller ones, to just eat raw. They're less fibrous, and of course they've got a very tart flavor, so if you're not into the tarts, you're going to want to just put them into desserts and stuff and mix them with other things like strawberries and stuff to kind of dim or dull down that tartness. But anyway, save the big ones, the big thick stalks, and I'll tear off some here in a second and show you for the recipes, because if you try and eat those, it can get very fibrous, and it's not that the flavor isn't good, it's just kind of rough to eat, you know. So one thing you also want to remember is that you want to yank them, and I've heard and I've read kind of both things, that you can cut the stalks off, and then I've heard that you should yank them, and in my experience, yanking them is much better. They tend to like invigorate growth better. When I've cut them, it's just like a dead end. You know, it doesn't really return the growth that I see when I yank them. And I think that's because from the crown, the way it grows from little rhizomes on the ends of them, and when you cut them, it kills the stem down to the rhizomes, or at least to the crown. And then, but when you yank them, it leaves these little, they almost look like roots in a way, that eventually will return more growth. So I prefer to yank them. So my advice to you guys is to yank them, don't cut them. Never eat the leaves. They're beautiful. They're a beautiful ornamental plant. And that's one reason why I'm encouraging everybody to, look at that, it's beautiful. I'm encouraging everybody to grow them, because even if you don't like the tart flavor and they're not your favorite to just eat, if there's ever a major earthquake or some sort of disaster, or zombie apocalypse, or asteroid impact, or whatever, all the doomsday scenarios you hear out there, this is a good plant that can return year after year and provide you some food, you know. And there are others, which we will go into in other videos, but this is a good one, you know, because it looks good, you know. You want to plant them about 24 to 36 inches apart. They can get really wide and kind of tall, and this isn't even, we're early in the spring right now. This will get bigger. I've seen them up to 3 feet tall, 3 feet wide. And then the super healthy ones, maybe even 4 or 5 feet. You know? The average person's probably not going to grow them that big, but unless you put a lot of energy into them. But anyway, they're a wonderful plant. I highly encourage everybody to grow them. When you plant them, make sure you don't harvest the first year. It needs time for the roots to set. You know, so you get a few stalks and everything. Just let it go the first year. Second year, you can take a few, and then by the third year, it's all bets are off. You can take as much as you want because it's established. It can be propagated through several means. You can either divide the crown, which means to dig up the crown and you cut it, kind of like a potato, as long as it has an eye or those rhizomes that I'm talking about, or at least one of them. If you can split them multiple times even, and then rebury it. And I actually find that that's the easiest. I've had the best success that way. Doing them by seed, which can be done also, I have not had as good a success. The seeds are very hard. It takes a long time for a crown to grow, so you're looking at a couple of years, if not a few years, before you even see any results for that. So I suggest taking one that's already established and growing and just cut off a piece of the crown, set it over into the spot that you want, and then wait a year or two for it to establish again, and then you can harvest from it. That's the better way to do it, in my opinion. So anyway, with no further ado, I'm going to show you. Just yank that bad boy out. These smaller ones right here are the ones that I prefer just to eat. Like I said, never eat the leaves, compost them, and then take a bite. As you can see, they're kind of fibrous, and that's why I prefer the smaller ones, because they're easier to mesh through with your teeth. The larger ones, which we'll pull out that bad boy, trying to bite into that, you're going to just be gnawing on that. So I'd save this for the desserts. However, if you decide that, you know, let's say you're in a survival situation or whatever, you can eat it by peeling them like that. And by doing that, it makes it easier to eat. So, set that down. And here's one last pointer. These leaves, because they're poisonous to most things, there are some bugs that will eat it, which reminds me, there's no herbicide or pesticide for it. So you got to use some alternate methods like neem oil. Let's give it a soap bath. Eggshells. However, I will be doing a video on eggshells, on why people fail at eggshells. It's the best way to keep it, but most bugs don't bother it. If it's not doing too well, they can get to it still. But if you have a healthy plant, it usually can resist most pests. It's pretty pest resistant. So, but that brings me to another point because of what they contain in it, and it's not exactly sure how to pronounce it. I think it's Alex, A-X-A-L-I-C. That's what's in this. And don't quote me on that, guys. I might be wrong on that, but that's what is in the leaves that makes it kind of poisonous. And it's not like if you take a bite of this, you're going to die. But it's going to give you a very upset stomach. You're not going to be happy. And if you ate a lot of them, you could potentially die. So don't eat them. But if you make a compost tea with this, it can be an herbicide. You can spray it on your other plants, like a compost tea, and it won't hurt the plants, but it'll be somewhat pest resistant. So you can actually make kind of an organic pest resistor with it, and fertilize your other plants with it with a compost tea. So that's kind of a cool idea. But anyway, this is Corey Lefevre. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and there'll be more videos to come. I look forward. I'll leave my email below. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer some of your questions, or if you have any suggestions on other videos, I would love to hear from you too. So anyway, this is Garden Fever. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.